Get the recording. All right, let's see Cena Team 7, take it away.
Hello, this is Cena Team 7, and we'll be presenting Integrating Tools for Active Defense and Critical Infrastructure. All right, so a temporary solution to bridge the gap between lack of funding and need for cybersecurity at the lower levels of our nation's critical infrastructure is to have inexpensive and simple measures to improve security overall. Active defense is a concept of reducing costs to yourself while increasing costs to potential attackers. It's an efficient way to implement cybersecurity for the smaller and strained IT staffs that are often working the local water treatment facilities and smaller electric substations. There are a variety of simple and effective tools to execute this strategy. Among them are canary tokens, port spoofing, and honey users. Each tool is based on a larger, more complicated device/concept shrunk down to scale and simplicity. These tools can be supplements to existing static defenses as well. All of these can be presented on a single screen, summarizing the most important information for the decision makers, called dashboards. Next slide, please. A security dashboard presents information from the tools that we're going to discuss and presents them in a relevant way. The sysadmin in a department or any other IT staff would be monitoring this security dashboard. Next slide, please.
Honey users are basically a simpler version of honeypots where a fake user is created to act as a detection method. Honeypots, in essence, can act like different operating systems in critical infrastructure. As attackers attempt to infiltrate employee user accounts to gain and escalate privilege in order to gain more information and other assets, we can use honey users to basically act as a tripwire, giving an alert when they are accessed. This will not only slow down attackers, but also provide more time for detection and removal. Next slide, please. How to implement them into critical infrastructure. They can be implemented in various sectors of the critical infrastructure by attaching fake files and users in various operating systems across organizations or other sectors. For example, creating a fake user that contains a fake list containing various ingredients and measurements, for example, for a pharmaceutical drug, which is part of the chemical sector. Next slide, please.
Okay, so now we're going to discuss canary tokens. So canary tokens are an easy way to detect if somebody's trying to access information they shouldn't be. You can create a canary token for a variety of avenues an attacker might be trying to infiltrate or might be using to infiltrate a network. This includes the DNS token, URL token, or custom exe or DLL files. After selecting the token type, you can download the file and place it where you see fit. So the way that they work is they embed a unique URL in the image tag of the page, and they monitor the incoming GET requests. So if somebody accesses the file exe or URL or whatever the canary token is, you'll get a report basically that says where everything happened basically. So how it can be implemented to critical infrastructure is, for example, in the Colonial Pipeline hack, there was ransomware for specific files. So if you have a bunch of canary tokens sprinkled around everywhere in your network, it'll take time for the attackers to actually get to where they want to go, and it will give you time to get them out of your network. So this is pictures on how it works to create a canary token. So this is the Microsoft Word document. It gets downloaded. Then the report, when somebody opens the file, it gives you the HTTP, it gives you the canary token, the reminder, and also the type. And now we go into port spoofing.
Okay, port spoofing is a fast and more secure addition to firewalls or any other security measure. It's basically, instead of saying to the hacker that port is closed, it's saying everything's open, and it gives a return saying send ACK, which makes it harder and slower for the hacker to enter the system using a particular port, and it takes up to 8 hours. And the signature database gives the service of that port, and it makes it even harder to figure out which is the right port for the hacker to enter the network. And next slide. And these are the following instructions and results of port spoofing.
So now we will take any questions that you may have. and we'll answer them to the best of our abilities.
So I really like the idea here of you combining multiple items and multiple things. How will you address that overarching dashboard you mentioned? Are you planning on having it available to a specific set of users? And also, how would you protect that dashboard?
So the dashboard is really meant for like the system admins and any managers who are actually like managing the network. And so basically the way that we were kind of planning on integrating it into like one dashboard would it would be kind of like easy to use for like anybody, so it would be easy for cross training as well. But long story short, you can use for the Canary tokens specifically, you can use webhooks, and we were experimenting with ways to like make it work with our own like web code, but it didn't really like work out the way that we intended it to. But basically with more time and like more more research, we could integrate all of them and make it kind of like easy to see, if that makes sense.
Okay, it does. Another other question. In general, if you have way too many false positive or too many kind of alarms, you kind of make the users or admins kind of numb towards that. So how do you prevent some of those false alarms? How do you suggest going to a system which minimizes those kinds of items for the system admin?
I can answer that one. A lot of dashboards use a technique that instead of displaying a number on an alert, it will display actually a probability. I apologize. It will display a probability of a certain event happening. For example, if we see that a number of computers aren't responding to the tool, then we could assume that it's a ransomware attack, or based off of a function probably in the background, it could be that there's a network outage if there's not enough computers that are locked up, or otherwise, just based off of the amount that could be implemented into the dashboard to give a risk or a level or a probability as opposed to just a number.
Thank you.
So I had a question about the Canary users concept. So when putting in some of that fake data into your systems, how would you ensure that the defenders wouldn't also be confused by the Canary data?
Well, I mean, the Canary data will definitely try being as like realistic as possible, probably using the same format as like the normal data would, but obviously it wouldn't hold information that had anything specific. And so my bad, can you repeat the question one more time just so I can answer it to like full extent?
Yeah, let me rephrase. So basically you're intending to use deception techniques in order to deceive the adversary. How do you make sure you don't deceive yourself?
Oh, well, so ways that you can do it is like when training employees, they wouldn't be looking in the same places as you have these tokens spread apart. And that may create that can kind of like, I guess, mitigate the issue of like accidentally like going across those files, because the employees aren't really trained to go into those specific places. So the only people who would be going in there are people who are trying to attack your network. And I feel like that would probably fix that situation, or at least limit it.
Thanks, everybody. That takes us to the time limit on this presentation and the Q&A.